Good afternoon and welcome to our midday briefing. It is Friday the 13th of February. Let me start as usual on Fridays with the agenda of President von der Leyen. As you know, the President is in Germany to participate in the annual meeting of the Munich Security Conference. On top of what we have already announced, the President will tomorrow participate in a panel on the future of the international order, followed by a conversation with the Prime Minister of the UK, Keir Starmer. You can find further details on the President's Munich agenda in yesterday's Daily News. Moving on to the President's agenda for next week. She will chair the meeting of the College here in Brussels on Wednesday as per usual. That's all we have for the moment. As always, we will keep you posted via our usual communication channels should there be updates. Next, let me remind you that the EU Ministers for Social Affairs and Employment are gathered today in Nicosia for an informal meeting. Executive Vice President Minzatu represents the Commission at this meeting. Ministers will notably discuss fair, inclusive and future-oriented employment and social policies. They will also exchange on the European anti-poverty strategy. These and other items will be on the agenda of today's meeting, and I invite you to check the Council's website for further details. EVP Minzatu will participate in the press conference that follows this meeting. We expect this to take place around 4:45 this afternoon, and we keep you updated. As usual, please keep your questions on those topics for this dedicated press conference. Finally, I would like to formally welcome my father-in-law, Declan Moylan, to our press room. If any of you are talking to him, please say nice things about me. That's all from us. We can now open the floor for your questions. Oliver.
Hi, thank you. He's a top spokesman, so I can vouch for that. I have a question on digital policies and Grok in particular, X. So it's Thomas, if I may. And the question would be, given that there are cases popping up in some member states, particularly the one I know best, where people still are able to use Grok to make these sexualized images of children and of women, and given that I think X has promised they would make sure this is not possible anymore, what's your analysis of the this phenomenon, and what is the Commission going to do? Is this going to speed up your investigations, or what are we supposed to think of this? Thank you.
Hi, Oliver. Thanks, Olaf. Indeed, we're following these cases very closely, obviously. So let me first start by saying that the DSA is not about individual cases. So, of course, we follow this. We, of course, read the reporting definitely, but we're not going to go into individual cases. Now, indeed, X had promised that they would limit the possibility to generate such sexual images. We had been very clear since the very beginning. It's not about limiting it. It's about getting it completely off the table, because we don't want child sexual abuse material in Europe. That's the reason this underlines, once again, the importance of the investigation that we have opened. We will, of course, follow closely what is happening in the European Union, and this can definitely feed the ongoing investigation and potentially speed up the process, yes.
Follow-up.
Thanks for this. I completely understand and appreciate it's very difficult. You need to get a case together that, in extremis would also stand in Luxembourg. But one gets the impression that X is not really taking its commitments very seriously. I'm putting it very diplomatically. Do you not think it's time to escalate the way that you're inquiring this, to make particularly Mr. Musk aware that this is not just a small affair, but this is fundamentally important, and if he keeps disrespecting European law, this will affect his business model? Thank you.
Thank you. I think the owner of the company is very well aware that we are very serious about the enforcement. He's the first one who got a fine, just as a reminder. Now, second point on this, I think the owner is also very well aware of the fact that his AI tool embedded in his social media platform has allowed the generation of such images. The platform and its owner have been vocal themselves, saying that users should not generate such content, otherwise they would face consequences by the platform. So I think that's the alignment that has been created, it's like the owner and the platform themselves say this should not be allowed. Now, of course, when we have such evidence that pops up, this, of course, can increase the process and can speed up the ongoing investigation, yes.
Merci, Thomas. Other questions for Thomas on this topic or on any of the other many files he covers? I don't see any hands raised in the room or online, therefore we switch topics. Noureddin.
Merci, Olaf. I have a question to Anwar, maybe. It's about the UN expert Francesca Albanese, the French Foreign Affairs Minister, asked for the resignation of Madame Francesca Albanese, who is an expert for the Palestine-occupied territories. His accusation is based on false or fake news, because this is, has been documented by the Amnesty International and France 24 that the accusation was false. My question is, what is the reaction of the European Union, and should the European Union look for ways to protect the experts who are fighting for the respect of international law, like Madame Francesca Albanese and many, many others, and also the judge of the International Criminal Court, who are sanctioned by the United States? My second question is about, maybe for you also, it's about the invitation Madame von der Leyen received to attend the Board of Peace meeting, I think 18 or 19 in Washington. Will Madame von der Leyen participate in this meeting? If so, does that mean that the observation the European Union made public officially here in the press room, but also in the European Summit on January 22nd, about the scope of this Board of Peace, about its charter, its governance, and its lack of compatibility with the United Nations Charter? Does that mean, if she participates, that these observations are solved and cleared? Thank you.
Thank you, Nordin, for your questions. I'll start on the first angle and then I'll go to the second. We do not comment on comments, as you all know. But allow me to here also state the following. We condemn all forms of anti-Semitism, and this is clear. I will also recall the statements from both the President von der Leyen and the High Representative Kaya Kallas on the day of International Holocaust Remembrance Day. We take note of the calls from some member states for Madame Albanese to resign, but that decision on her future is to be taken by the UN. The EU has had a consistent and consolidated position on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, underlining our strong commitment to international law, comprehensive, just and lasting peace based on the two-state solution, in accordance with the relevant resolutions of the UN Security Council, where two democratic states, Israel and Palestine, live side by side in peace within secure and recognized borders. I will also add that the EU is a firm supporter of the UN human rights system, and that we will continue to support efforts towards independent investigations into violations and abuses of human rights and violations of international humanitarian law, including those that may amount to international crimes. So this is what I have to say on the matter. When it comes to the second point, I can also elaborate on that, and Olaf is also ready to add if he judges so relevant. President von der Leyen indeed did get an invitation to the meeting of the Board of Peace on the 19th of February. Our position remains unchanged and has been very clear from the start. We have a number of questions on a number of elements in the Charter of the Board of Peace related to its scope, its governance, and its compatibility with the UN Charter. We are ready to work together with the United States on the implementation of the Comprehensive Peace Plan for Gaza, with a Board of Peace carrying out its mission as a transitional administration in accordance, again, with the resolution of the UN Security Council 2803. We are actively engaging with the United States on how we can jointly reach this objective.
Many thanks for that very clear answer, Anwar. Nuruddin, you have a follow-up.
In your presentation of President von der Leyen agenda, you said that she will have the meeting here of the college next Wednesday. But Anwar, is she going to Washington or not? This is my second. I'm finding your answer in the beginning. You are mixing the anti-Semitism with Madame Francesca Albanese mission. There is no link whatsoever between the two issues. Of course, it's true what you have said about the anti-Semitism, but Madame Francesca Albanese, her communication or her, she's her work is almost public. Why are you mixing between the anti-Semitism issue and the experts who are criticizing the colonial policy of Israel? Why you are mixing the two things? I think there is no necessity to do that. Thank you.
Nuruddin, thanks very much for your follow-up. On the first point, we were very clear in relation to the President's agenda and in relation to the position of the Commission vis-à-vis the Board of Peace. And on your second question, with respect, that was a statement, not a question. So with that, we're going to move on to other topics. Are other questions on this topic for Anwar, first of all? Go ahead.
Tatiana Vysotska, European Pravda, Ukraine. I want just to clarify about this Board of Peace sitting. Ursula von der Leyen says no to invitation of Trump to America for this sitting. Will the European Union send any envoy to represent, maybe as observer, or no one from the European Union will sit at that in that room? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. We already provided an answer to this, and with that, I am closing down that topic. Other questions for Anwar on Foreign Affairs? Go ahead.
Oui, bonjour, Bernard Denuy, Agence Europe. J'ai une question sur la Guinée-Bissau. Radio France Internationale a fait état d'une expulsion par des hommes armés de l'ambassadeur de l'Union européenne, Federico Bianchi, lors d'une visite dans les locaux de la Ligue bissau-guinéenne des droits de l'homme. C'était samedi 7 février dernier. Donc, est-ce que vous confirmez cet incident et quelle est la réaction du Service européen pour l'action extérieure? Merci.
Merci pour votre question. Le 7 février dernier, l'ambassadeur de l'Union européenne en Guinée-Bissau a en effet visité la dite Casa dos Direitos, la Maison des Droits, une organisation de la société civile dans le cadre des Journées des droits de l'homme, célébrées par l'Union européenne en Guinée-Bissau. À la fin de la visite, des hommes des forces d'intervention de la police sont entrés dans des locaux et ont demandé aux personnes présentes de quitter immédiatement le bâtiment. Personne n'a été blessé et l'incident n'a duré que quelques minutes. L'ambassadeur de l'Union européenne a depuis pris contact avec les autorités de facto afin de recueillir des informations complémentaires. Le Premier ministre de facto et le ministre des Affaires étrangères du gouvernement de transition ont présenté leurs excuses en personne à l'ambassadeur de l'Union européenne le lundi 9 février. Plus généralement, en ce qui concerne la situation dans le pays, l'Union européenne se tient fermement aux côtés de ses partenaires régionaux et internationaux, notamment la CEDEAO et l'Union africaine, pour soutenir les efforts visant à rétablir l'ordre constitutionnel, la gouvernance démocratique ainsi que la stabilité en Guinée-Bissau dans cette période qui est tellement critique.
Merci Anwar. Autre question pour Anwar, s'il te plaît.
Thank you very much, Euroscope Georgia. EU ambassador to Georgia had meeting in Foreign Affairs Ministry. Then yesterday we saw two press statements, one from the ambassador side and the second from Foreign Affairs Ministry, and they was absolutely different. From your side, there was mentioning that the main issue discussed was the amendments to repressive laws, and from side of Foreign Affairs that they raise issue of upcoming 12th package of sanctions. So my question is if these amendments will be adopted, should we expect some next steps from the EU side? And in advance, if it's possible, I want to ask the second question to Marcus about visas. Thank you.
Thank you. I will let Marcus being Marcus. On your first point, the proposed amendments mark a further escalation in Georgian authorities' efforts to severely restrict the country's civic and democratic space. The EU ambassador has raised EU concerns directly with Georgian authorities. If adopted, these measures would further suppress basic democratic freedoms. This legislation would contradict fundamental rights, European and international standards. It would be another demonstration that Georgian authorities are turning their back on the country's EU path, clearly going against promises to the Georgian population. As to us, the EU, we will always continue to stand by the Georgian people. Georgian authorities must revert back to a democratic path. In terms of sanctions, you also touched on the issue. Look, we have been consistent in our response, and all options remain on the table. We downgraded our political contacts, stopped assistance benefiting the Georgian authorities, and suspended visa-free travel for Georgian diplomats, officials, and their families. I'll stop there, and my colleague might have more to add.
Thanks, Anwar. I will evacuate all foreign affairs questions for Anwar before bringing Marcus up for the second question on Georgia. So do we have any other questions on foreign affairs for Anwar? No? Okay, in that case, I call up Marcus. And if you wouldn't mind repeating your question, please, that would be great.
If you can confirm that member states have voted in favour of suspension visa liberalisation for diplomatic and service passports, and if yes, so what measures will be when it's expected to be in a reality, and what should we expect in next steps? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tamara. So, just to put it in the context, last month the Commission launched the procedure under the new visa suspension mechanism to suspend the exemption from the visa requirement for nationals of Georgia holding diplomatic, service and official passports. And now member states have given their positive opinion earlier this week in the comitology procedure. This means that the Commission can now and will now be able to adopt the implementing regulation. As to the next steps, stay tuned. We have now received the go to do this, and you will be duly informed as soon as this happens.
Follow-up.
We saw in the media that Hungary and Slovakia voted against, and people are interested. Does it mean that they can't to not allow so these restrictions, or all 27 members should be in line of this decision? Thank you.
This is indeed an important aspect of the new rules, which also distinguishes it from what we had last year. Once adopted, the new rules will ensure uniform application of the suspension in all member states. That means when it's imposed at EU level, bilateral visa exemptions for holders of diplomatic, service and official passports are no longer possible.
Thank you, Marcus. Do we have other questions for Marcus? I don't see any hands in the room. Mosa, I see your hand online. You've mentioned that the question's for Anwar, but you asked for a follow-up on the Special Rapporteur Albanese. As I said, that topic was closed. Therefore, I'll come back to you later if time allows for a different question to Anwar. Do we have other questions for Marcus? No? Okay. Other questions for us today? Go ahead.
Yes, Frédéric Pouchot, AFP. Question for you, Olaf. China has announced yesterday new duties on some European dairy products of up to 12% following its investigation on the sector. They are indeed lower than the provisory rates that were applied so far, but a number of member states are unhappy with those results. What is the Commission position?
Thank you for your question. So the Commission takes note of this decision by the Government of the People's Republic of China to impose definitive countervailing duties on imports of certain dairy products originating in the European Union. We consider these measures to be unwarranted and unjustified. We do acknowledge that these duties in the final determination are substantially lower than those proposed at the provisional stage. Nonetheless, we remain firmly of the view that these investigations should not have happened in the first place, because, in our assessment, the applications lacked sufficient evidence to justify the openings of such proceedings. So what we'll do now is we will assess the implications of these measures, and our commitment is to defend the legitimate interests of our dairy sector here in the EU in accordance with the international trade rules. We will look at what our options are from here, including the possibility of taking action with the World Trade Organization. Thank you. Other questions for Olaf on trade? Kuhn.
Yeah, a question related to this, the dairy probe, but also the earlier the pork investigation from China and the brandies. In all three cases, the Chinese initially set higher duties provisionally, and then they lowered them in the definitive stage. What do you think of this approach from their side? Is that something that, is it like an olive branch towards the EU in some way? And secondly, a more practical question on the WTO. You started a probe against the Chinese investigation on dairy right when they announced it, I believe. That needs to be replaced with a formal one against the definitive duties, correct?
Thanks, Kuhn. For your second question, I believe yes, but I'll need to just double-check that with our experts to make sure I'm not speaking out of turn. And on your first question, I'm not going to speculate as to the logic behind China's actions in the trade space, other than to repeat that from the European Union perspective, the grounds for initiating these investigations and the application of any subsequent duties are spurious, are not based on fact, and should therefore be removed. You've heard me say from this podium before that we're committed to improving trade and investment relations with China in a general sense, but in order for that to happen in a meaningful way, and in order for us to be able to move it forward in the way we would like to, we need to see meaningful Chinese action on a number of fronts relating to unfair subsidisation, the unfair playing field, dumping, the market access discriminations that EU companies face in China, and we continue to engage with China in order to tackle those issues so that we can move the relationship forward in a positive sense. Other questions for Olaf? Paula.
Thanks. A few weeks ago, von der Leyen said that the EU would be ready to act as soon as one Mercosur country ratifies the deal. And last night, the Argentinian parliament was the first country from that bloc to pass the deal in their parliament with views of finishing the job by the 1st of March. Is in the event of, for example, Argentina ratifying the deal, is the Commission ready to implement it provisionally? And what would be the concrete steps, if you could clarify, what would the Commission exactly do as of 1st of March if Argentina has ratified the deal? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Paula. As you correctly pointed out yourself, only the first stage of ratification in Argentina has happened. I understand it still needs to go through the Senate, and therefore we're not going to speculate on what may or may not happen in a third country. From this podium, and speaking on behalf of the Commission, I'm simply going to repeat that the Member States at the European Council gave the European Commission the possibility to apply the Mercosur agreement provisionally. No decision on this has been taken. Conversations are ongoing with our Member States, with our MEPs, including at the informal UCO yesterday. And what President von der Leyen said very clearly was that we would be ready when a Mercosur country is ready. That's not the case yet, so we'll just have to wait a little bit longer. Other questions for Olaf on trade? I see no hands in the room. I see no hands online. Other topics? Jorge.
Hello, Olaf. I want to follow up on yesterday. I want to follow up on yesterday's summit informal retreat. During the press conference, the president of the Commission was quite clearly, she was quite forceful even, that by June there should be an agreement on the Savings and Investments Union, otherwise the EU should resort to enhanced cooperation. So how committed is she to this deadline by June? Is this a hard deadline? Is this a indicative deadline, aspirational deadline? Can we expect enhanced cooperation in June, seriously, from the Commission, if there's no deal on the Savings Union? Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Jorge. Look, what I can say on this is that what the President very clearly is trying to do on behalf of the European Commission as the engine of European Union is to try and light a fire under the policy developments we know need to happen. There's virtually total consensus across the EU that we need to drive competitiveness, that we need to achieve our independence, as she likes to put it, on a number of fronts. So, as regards enhanced cooperation, what the President has said on many occasions is that the treaty allows for it. Our clear preference is always to do things at 27 if we can. But the urgency of the task before us, the necessity to achieve all the things we want to achieve in terms of competitiveness, simplification, strengthening partnerships around the world for economic opportunities, for diversification of inputs, that work can't wait. And therefore, I think what you heard her clearly say, including yesterday, was that if, despite our best efforts, we can't move fast enough, then the treaties allow for enhanced cooperation. And it's a discussion that's important to have, I think. And you saw very clearly yesterday that discussion was being had among EU leaders, as it should be. And as regards the Savings and Investments Union, again, we're just trying to light a fire under these necessary policy initiatives. The President mentioned yesterday the big deliverable from yesterday's summit was that the Commission has committed to presenting what we're calling the One Europe, One Market Pact, which will be a roadmap and an action plan in order to unlock growth and really finally make the breakthroughs on competitiveness that we so badly need. This will be a document to be presented at the next meeting of EU leaders in March. It will be a clear roadmap with concrete targets, strict timelines, and also clear sort of deadlines for when we need to deliver on the different stages. As the President likes to say, what gets measured gets done. And so, and the Savings and Investments Union is one of the 5 pillars of that One Europe, One Market plan. So watch this space. We'll have more to say on it when we present it in March. Other questions for us today? I don't see any hands in the room. I see a few hands online. Let's start with Tommaso.
Yes, good afternoon, Tommaso Gallolotti. Thanks for the floor. It's related to the Savings and Investment Union because the governor of the Bundesbank, Joachim Nagel, said recently that he's in favor of common EU debt, not to mutualize the previous debts of member states, of course, but to finance some EU priorities on the condition that the member states lower their national debts, of course. While Chancellor Friedrich Merz seems still hesitant on this. I wonder if you have any comment on Mr. Nagel's statements, which are quite, striking for coming from the Bundesbank. Many thanks.
Thanks for your question, Tommaso. We don't have any comments to make at this time. These are discussions that are ongoing. You will have seen that they were that it was a topic for discussion also yesterday, and we're not going to say anything on it at this particular moment in time. I'll take a few more questions online. Mathieu at Agence Europe.
Bonjour. C'est un follow-up sur la coopération renforcée. Est-ce que la Commission pense que la masse critique minimale pour lancer de tels projets, c'est la zone euro, notamment sur les questions financières. Merci.
Merci Mathieu, mais on ne va pas spéculer là-dessous. Comme je viens de dire, le traité donne la possibilité de coopérer de cette manière. Notre préférence, c'est de continuer de coopérer à 27, mais si cela n'est pas possible, on doit réfléchir sérieusement sur la possibilité de continuer avec au moins 9 États membres. Mais on ne va pas spéculer davantage. Okay, I now turn to Anna.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
It's working, I think. Okay, perfect. So the Portuguese government has announced that they will request a further revision on RRF due to the consequences of the storm of the past days. I wonder if the Commission has been already informed about it. What can Portugal change in the plan? And also the government has also said that they would implement an exclusively Portuguese recovery and resilience plan. Does the Commission know anything about this? I think it's just with Portuguese funds, but can the government use this name? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna. Good afternoon, colleagues. So I can confirm that we are discussing with Portugal about the possible amendment of the recovery plan. I cannot disclose any details. It's still in the discussion, and once this amendment is submitted, then we'll be able to provide more information. If you can repeat your second question, please.
Sure. So the Portuguese government said yesterday that they would create like an exclusively Portuguese recovery and resilience plan with just Portuguese funds, not European funds. So does the Commission know about this initiative, and can Portugal actually use this name, some sort of marketing to use it?
Look, to be honest, I'm not aware of this initiative. Whether Portugal can use this name or not, well, to be seen. I don't think any problem for Portugal to use a similar name for their own project. But again, I don't have any further information.
Thank you very much, Maciek. I'm just looking at the hands online. I see a number of hands still raised, so I'm assuming you have follow-ups. Okay, Tommaso is gone. Mathieu, tu as un follow-up? Ok, Mathieu n'est pas là. Tu es là, Mathieu?
Pas de follow-up.
Ok, merci, mais tu peux faire descendre ta main dans ce cas, s'il te plaît. Ok, Anna, do you have a follow-up?
No, I don't. Sorry, I just forgot to take it off.
Thank you, dear friends. Remember the rules. Raise your hands, then unraise them if you don't have any further questions. And now I turn to Maria Duran.
Hello, Maria Duran, Europublic News Agency. I think my question is for Anna Kaiser. Yesterday, President von der Leyen mentioned the debate on energy prices and said that the Commission would bring a review on of the electricity market design to the next European Council in March to address this issue. Could you provide more detail on this upcoming review, in particular what changes to the current pricing system are being considered, and what steps can we expect? Thank you.
We have to be quite clear what the President said yesterday, and what she did say, that for the next European Council she will bring different options and findings on whether it is time to move forward on the market design or whether we are still good on this market design. What she did specify is that what we are working on and will be presenting still later this year, now foreseen in July, is the emission trading system review. But on the market design, as you pointed out, it's important to see this in context. And of course, the context is the high energy prices, which came up in Antwerp, which came up yesterday, which has not just been brought up by the President of the Commission, but several heads of state. It is very clear This is something that we have not just started to look in Antwerp or yesterday. It has been on the agenda for many, many years. Prices are too high, they are too volatile. And the reason for the volatility, notably, is that we continue to be reliant on gas and its gas prices, or fossil fuels, and gas prices do drive up energy prices, and renewable and nuclear then on their part drive these prices down. So we have a structural issue with high energy prices. We depend on imported fossil fuels. We depend on global market prices, and this brings then volatility to the market that makes the prices go up and down. Infrastructure, you referred to the market design, is also key. And it is very much, I mean, the current electricity market design has been in place now for over a year. We have presented legislation and proposals on grids. So this is, again, something that is very much on our radar. And then an important thing is, of course, that relates to structural energy prices and tackling them, is modernizing our energy taxation. And to this effect as well, you will be able to see in the forward planning of the Commission that there's an energy package coming on in March, and some of these issues for sure will be addressed there. But and then further, you remember the Affordable Energy Action Plan that we presented last year, and part of that plan is a white paper on deeper electricity market integration. I do not have an exact date for the presentation of this white paper, but that is also foreseen. So there are several strands where the work is ongoing, but I want to be quite clear that the President did not say that there will be a revision of the electricity market design presented to the Council in March. What she did say that now several options are being discussed, and to really put this in context is that in the past couple of years we have completely overhauled European energy market, and this has meant that we have been working very, very closely with our member states, with stakeholders, really to feed into the work that we have done. So this work clearly now will continue, our contacts will continue, and our dialogue will continue, and there will be options presented in the Council, but we need to keep that a bit separate from our legislation that is currently in place.
Thank you for that very comprehensive answer, Anna Kajsa. Maria, your hand is still raised. Do you have a follow-up?
No, sorry.
Thank you very much. Do we have other questions for Anna Kajsa on the many files she covers? I don't see hands raised in the room nor online. Other topics for us today? I see only Mosa's noble hand raised online. So, Mosa, last question for the week to you. Reminder that we closed the chapter on the questions around the Special Rapporteur Albanese. So, I invite you to ask other questions, please.
Yes, Olof, Mosa Plot. Yes, I would like to ask a question about European Parliament's vote yesterday on the situation in Syria. Also including the humanitarian situation and the ceasefire which is supposed to take hold in Northeast Syria after the latest hostilities between the Kurdish-led Syrian Defense Forces and the Provisional Government's army and affiliated militia. I would like to ask if you already had the opportunity to look into it and have an opinion on that resolution, because it has a number of calls to ask on the EU and the member states to intensify efforts aiming at the escalation and confidence-building measures, of course, particularly in Northeast Syria, where the situation is indeed worrying, and also to make its engagement with the provisional authorities and the President Shara's government conditional on progress when it comes to civilian protection and minority rights, including all minorities, of course, but in particular now the Kurdish minority in Northeast Syria, which it seems has lost its local self-government, which is enjoyed until now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mose. I'm not sure I got the full extent of your intervention. You've been referring to, I think, a resolution of the Parliament, not the spokes of the Parliament. So if you have any question, please refer it to our dear colleagues. What I can say here is to reiterate our position on the situation in Syria, starting with the ceasefire and the agreement that we have seen between the Syrian transitional authorities and the Syrian democratic forces. We have welcomed it as European Union. We call on the parties now to implement it in a spirit of good faith and compromise. A full cessation of hostilities is needed to enable the provision of humanitarian aid, the protection of civilians, and the return of internally displaced persons. Stability of the northeast of Syria is key for the success of an inclusive political transition in Syria that will be protecting the rights of all Syrian people. Therefore, we call on all sides to ensure the security of the camps and detention facilities and to work to prevent the resurgence of Daesh. We stand ready to support the implementation of the agreement as European Union.
Thank you very much for that comprehensive answer, Anouar. Mosa, I see your hand is still raised. If you have a follow-up, make it fast, please, and thanks.
Yes, thanks again, Olof. Okay, I think that the agreement we signed or agreed between the Syrian Defense Forces and the government looks good on paper, but the question is whether it will be implemented or not. And then what EU can do in order, let's say, to use its leverage on the government to implement it and fulfill all its promises to the Kurdish and other minorities in Syria. That is the question, I mean, and that is also, I think, what the European Parliament's vote calls or urges the EU to do, to intensify its diplomatic efforts. So obviously the things that you haven't done enough in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mose. I think my statement speaks of itself, mentioning implementation, I think, 3 times, so nothing to add.
Many thanks, Anouar, and thank you, Mosa. Do we have any other questions, folks, before we wrap up for the week? I don't see hands in the room. I don't see hands online. With that, we wish you a great rest of Friday. Have a good weekend. See you next week.
Gracias.